Good morning and welcome to Kitchen Table Talks with the British Library Business and IP Centre. Thank you so much for coming. We're so happy to have you here. So I want to tell you a little bit about the British Library Business IP Centre. It basically exists to support entrepreneurs from all walks of life to start, protect and grow successful businesses. The centre provides free access to the UK's largest collection of intellectual property resources, market research, business data, and coupled with that, there are free and low-cost training, one-to-one support, as well as events that happen both in the library and online. Now, since 2012, the library has been rolling out its model for business support to other UK cities through the library structure. And currently it heads and co-brands a network of 15 partner business and IP centres offering comparable services to current and aspiring entrepreneurs across the country. Now, we've opened in a very phased way, but we are available to help online. So you can go to the website, if many of you have already done, to join this event. And there are lots of resources there for you. So definitely do get involved. So I have the pleasure this morning of spending some time and chewing the fat and finding out information from a real asset to the UK. So you know who she is, but I'm going to tell you a little bit more about her. So Julie Deane set up the Cambridge Satchel Company. I must include the OBE. Can't forget that bit because it's a very, very important bit. With her mother in 2008, and she was aiming to raise enough money to move her daughter from one school to another. And she came up with the idea of making a traditional leather satchel for school children in Cambridge. She invested just £600 to get the company off the ground. And that company started from her kitchen table. Now, before COVID, this company was employing over 140 people, selling to 120 countries. And in January 2014, the company raised $21 million from Index Ventures to really take her business to the next level. She's had this company, not just her. I say she has had because what people sometimes forget, although we talk about the company, there is always a driving force in the company to make it really work and make the teams work as well. But she's had collaborations with the prestigious designers, my words are tumbling this morning, it seems, and retailers including Vivienne Westwood, Comme des Garçons, Christopher Shannon, and Chez Benz. And they have seen basically this satchel that is inherently British, made in the UK, that is really a symbol, something that we can use for years and years and years to come. It's timeless. This satchel has been on catwalks all over the world. Hopefully some of you already have one for yourself. So not only has Julie been building this wonderful business, but what she's also done is done some work on behalf of the UK Prime Minister, as he asked her back in 2015 to carry out an independent review of self-employment in the UK. And that report was delivered in February 2016. Now, we all know that life has changed for us here in the UK and across the world. A global pandemic has made a massive difference to business. So no matter whether your business is massive, whether it's a medium-sized business, whether it's really small, there has been an impact on all of us. And Today, I'm going to talk to Julie Deane just about that impact and how we adapt to change. I'm sure some of you are wondering, who is this woman? Well, my name is Madeline McQueen, and I'm an executive coach and trainer in soft skills, and I work on strategy, confidence, clarity, and empowerment with leaders. So it's my pleasure today to welcome Julie Deane OBE to a different kitchen, but the same table for kitchen table talks. Welcome, Julie.
Hi.
How are you this morning?
I'm good. It's just feeling a lot like old times. You know, you're in the kitchen at the table, but now I'm staring at a green light, at a laptop balanced on 2 jigsaw puzzle boxes to give me the right height. So it's, you know, highly professional stuff.
A completely different setting to maybe the one you've had a few months back, but one that you're familiar with, which is wonderful. So I have a few questions for you this morning, and the great news is that we've had some questions sent in advance, and we will take some questions today. We are supported by and in partnership with Santander, and so if you have any audience, if you have any questions, whether it's about some banking questions, they are there to help. But what we really want to do is get the tea from Julie. So Julie, this morning, the first question I wanted to ask you really was, how has it been for you and the Cambridge Satchel Company during this time of COVID and pandemic and crises? How's it been for the organization?
I think it's been an exciting but really challenging time, which is, I'm sure, the same for just about everybody. We were so excited to finally go to the other place and open a beautiful shop in Oxford in February. We weren't as thrilled to then have to close it down just a few matter of weeks later because of lockdown. And so there was that gradual impact of seeing tourist traffic tail off, then seeing the shops have to shut, going back to online, trying to make sure that the workshops in Leicester were COVID safe, so that we could still dispatch things that people were buying online, and just everybody become really used to everything from these Zoom calls, team calls, the new vocabulary. You know, who knew what a furlough was before? So it's been an interesting time.
Okay, so what do you think for you? You know, having a global business, shrink in some ways overnight. What for you has been the biggest challenge that you've experienced through this period?
I think it's I'm still so involved, some would say over involved, in every single piece of the business. So it was easier for us in some ways to move to a way of, because it hasn't been that long. It's 12 years. It's not that long to me since it was being run online only from the kitchen, trying to juggle lots of different things. And so we didn't have that massive structure in place that some corporates had to handle, where they had lots and lots of stock from overseas, because we manufacture our own here in the UK. And we're also a very close-knit group. And so we were able to reshuffle our priorities and to react quite quickly as things happened. So as the shops closed, you know, we're very, maybe it's because being a mum as well, you know, you're very practical once you've had children, just thinking, well, if we've still got the shops, how do we use the shop windows? You know, in a way, maybe the door's closed, but can we still use the windows? And how do we manage the stock that we have in the shops? We need to get it so that it's available to buy online, because before we'd done some exclusives for the Edinburgh shop in particular, you know, some tartan exclusives that now had to be sort of, how do we get everything back in a way that's safe for everyone? So it was it was very, very practical solutions to try and shift everything online. And we'd always intended having a new website. That was the big project for this summer.
Yeah.
But we suddenly thought, before we have a new website, maybe we should just really cut things back and take things really back to, it's that overworked sort of phrase, but sort of first principles of, let's just look at ourselves and think, why do we exist? Why do we deserve to survive this? You know, what do we need to say online so that people finding us online who maybe don't know us can understand why we believe we're different and why we believe we deserve to be there, and what we do differently that makes us interesting and not mainstream.
Right. So one of the things I know in conversation I had with you before is you talked about going back to bare bones for your business. And I'm sure that's been the experience of many businesses, having to scale right back. If you think about bare bones, what does that mean to you? So if you can think about maybe 3 things that you've done that have really taken you back to bare bones.
I think that one of the things is, because we had to place so many people on furlough, bare bones, the first thing I would say is you need to think and be pragmatic and think about the greater good, you know, so you need to, one of the things that's difficult, if you have a small business and if you've had a small business that's grown to a medium-sized business, chances are you've got a lot of employees that you actually think of as close friends because you've been through so much together. And that then makes it very difficult to make some decisions that are hard, and you have to think about how you're going to survive a very challenging period. And that does mean putting people on furlough and going to the absolute minimum skeleton crew that can get the job done. And thankfully now you can, you know, use the part-time furlough a little bit. We were easing out of that and welcoming people back in gradually. But that was a very difficult one, just thinking we have to think, how do we survive? How does this business survive? Because in the long term, this is a business that has jobs for a lot of people. And we want to survive to be able to bring those people back at some stage. What do we need to do? And that doesn't mean making some difficult and objective sort of calls. So the first one, I think, is take a long-term view and a pretty brutal view on what do you need to do to survive.
Yeah.
The second thing is I founded Cambridge Satchel, and so at some stage, other than make the bags myself, which nobody would want to buy if I did make them myself, I'm not nearly as talented in that sort of area, but other than actually physically making and sewing the bags, I've done every single job. You know, I've coded the first website, I've done the VAT returns, I've done the all of the payroll stuff, I've embossed bags, and I've packed and dispatched them. So I think that it doesn't matter who you were before this. It matters what needs to be done now with this new skeleton crew that you have. And that probably means you have to do some very different things and be prepared to do what's needed right now, and forget the way it worked before. You know, just
you want to get stuck in, haven't you? Get your hands dirty, and regardless, go back to that real multitasking entrepreneur who can do a bit of everything.
Exactly. You know, and we have a shop at Bicester, and that was one of the first to reopen at the Bicester Village, and when we were trying to reopen it, there were some things that I remember thinking, okay, look, I'm down here, I'm unpacking boxes. I'm going to just embrace the command clip to get these pictures back on the wall, to get this place, you know, up and running again. And you just have to be practical and dive in. You know, I was covering and still am, you know, quite a few different parts of the business that I wasn't before. And that's actually been really good. It's like watching an episode of Undercover Boss, you know, where you can go in and think, really, that's the way we do that now? When did we start doing that? Because that doesn't make any sense. And sort of cutting back and really reconnecting and finding out what complexity can be removed to make things faster to go forward with. And then I think the third thing is you've really got to be brave and think, you know, this pandemic is changing everyone. You know, it changes the way we shop, it changes the way we live, and there's a real danger in just hanging on to this view of not only what your business was and how you did things before the pandemic, but how you're going to aim to do them after, and taking this opportunity to, it's not reinvent yourself, but it is evolve yourself to be the business that you want to be coming out of this, to reflect what you think that will be relevant and will do some good in the world as you come out.
So interesting you say that, because I hear a lot of people going, when we're back to normal, when we're back to normal. And it's almost like, well, normal has changed. So we need to get with the program and appreciate that that is the case. So absolutely, I'm fully with you on that. And I think moving on from there, for you, what's been what have you needed to do to keep that positive mindset, that forward-thinking mindset, where you don't think, oh my goodness, woe is me, my entire world has ended, but where you're solution-focused rather than problem-focused?
I think that, you know, it's been helpful to me. One thing that's always been helpful to me is looking at my life as a whole, you know, not just the work part of my life. And during the first, I'm saying the first lockdown, like there's going to be a second lockdown, but we don't know. At 8 o'clock tonight, we'll know what's happening. But during lockdown, I joined the village that I live in, their Facebook group, and sort of became active in that community, seeing, you know, what we could do for people who maybe couldn't leave their houses. And if you can drop off things, then that makes it better. And talking to Emily and Max now, you know, they're 19 and 21. And so speaking to them about their concerns and just seeing the way that their lives have changed and been impacted. I've done a few things with the Bernardo's organization, talking to some people in that community, with the Starter Enterprise charity, helping people start up their businesses, realizing it's not all about you and all about your business, because your business doesn't work in isolation. And the better you can understand the world around your business and how it moves forward, I think that really does the greatest service to your business, because you'll be better able to serve in a more relevant way, and you won't look like that business that was just waiting to go back to a situation that maybe, you know, people's attitudes have changed. They're way more interested, thank goodness, in sustainability. They're more interested in what they can do not to be part of that kind of like disposable society that maybe we had before. And they're also a lot more interested in the local community. And that could be just because of being aware of unemployment and job losses. What can we do to support British manufacturing?
Right.
Or the more local community, you know, what can we do to help like the pubs in our village? They went to such lengths during lockdown to do things like suddenly, you know, take away Sunday dinners or something like that people could buy into, because they need to get some money in somehow, you know. And if you want your village, if you want your community, and if you want your town to look anything like vibrant and to be able to survive this, you've got to think really, really carefully about what can I do to support that butcher or that fruit shop, or, you know, what can I do to get pizzas maybe from the place that used to do them that's now only takeaway, because
Yes.
you know, we're part of a community and we just have to pull together.
Yeah, I hear that. I think one of the word that comes to me based on what you've said is that connection, connecting. And if you can connect with the people around you and understand the wider world around you, then actually you haven't got time literally to be sort of in the dolly dundrums, have you? You now have to look at solutions and ways of connecting. We've had a few questions over the last few days, and they've been mainly around marketing. So I'm just trying to find the names. Here we go. So Barney Durant, you know, he's got his business and he's just wondering what advice you have for marketing your business. And I suppose that's again about connecting with your audience or potential audiences in order for you to be able to really kind of grow or at least sustain. As you said, you talked about, you know, your number one thing was about how do you survive. And I've also got a question here from Graham Taylor, and it's a similar kind of thing. He's got a retail business, he's got stock that he's paid for, it's all sitting there, he's tried, you know, lots of different things. How do you market and connect with audiences in this kind of circumstance?
I think the competition for everyone's attention is so intense that I can only speak for us. And for me, I can't try to claim the middle ground. You know, I have got to find that group of people that really understands and appreciates what we do.
Yeah.
And I think that if you're aiming for volume and quantity, you're going to be up against some big names with some big budgets and big resource. And so, you know, right in the beginning with Cambridge Satchel, I didn't have that. And that's why I placed the fluorescent bags with the bloggers, you know, at the big fashion shows and got noticed in that way. Take something a little bit different. For us going back online again, you know, how are you going to capture people's attention? And you need to embrace, you know, the whole social media part, because you can really amplify your effects. And I love reading. I'm obsessed with books. One book that I would really recommend. Well, there's two books. One is an old business book called Guerrilla Marketing.
Oh yes, I know that book.
I think that's a really good one. It's a really good one. It's not a long book. It's impactful. It's really practical. That's a good one. The other one is one by the now she was a professor in marketing at Stanford, Jennifer Arkers, and she wrote a book called The Dragonfly Effect. And that again is a good book about how maybe you can use some impact in social media to try and sort of send the ripples out. For us, we make bags. This is what I firmly believe. This is my customer. We make bags for the world's most interesting people. And it's a big claim, but to me, the most interesting people are the people that really have a love of something, and it might not be immediately obvious. You know, we have an incredible person that works at Cambridge Satchel, and I am her father's biggest fan. So her dad, you know, his job has nothing to do with actually his passion, and he's retired now. But he's just such an expert in cacti and succulents. And he's actually got space at Kew Gardens because of that. I think that makes him a truly interesting person.
Yes.
And I think that we are very curious about what our what our community, what our customers are finding helpful and are interested in. And that then builds a bit more of an engaging conversation. So what I would say is when you're doing marketing, try and think who it is that you really want to engage with. And then you won't be trying to spread a probably quite small budget too thinly.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, so another question for you that I'd like to ask is about investment, because I think that this is the kind of time where a lot of people suddenly want to get involved in, or maybe my business will survive if I get investors involved. If I get some investment, then, you know, we can really make it big as such. So I know it's something that you've obviously had and experienced. What would you say would be if people are thinking about investors, the things to think about or to watch out for when engaging with investors?
So the first thing I'd say is that Cambridge Satchel was at its strongest when we had virtually, you know, I started this business with £600, no investment, and I had to learn to do everything myself because I didn't want an overdraft, I didn't want any debt. And so some of the creative ways of getting noticed came about because there wasn't that much money to spend. Some of the stupidest moves that I have now seen that I really needed to take more responsibility for was when we had the most money, because that's when my confidence sort of really took a bit of a hit. And I thought that people who'd worked at much bigger businesses had much more experience, and that I should really let them take control of their area because they know more about their area than I know. And so it's a very dangerous thing to lose your confidence in yourself at a time like this, because what your business is going to need right now is to have that truly authentic voice and that really genuine spirit of a founder that only a founder can bring. And yes, sometimes money makes things easier, but you know, I could pay for lots of traffic to come to the website, but our website hasn't really been reflecting who we are. And that's something we're working on right now to change, to bring that in. That's the thing. If you've got investment, make sure you know exactly what you would do with that money, because we are a far better investment having gone through the difficulties of, you know, of cutting back and scaling back and really focusing and asking those really fundamental questions. It makes us actually much better now than we were even a year ago, and we were better a year ago than we were 3 years ago. And that was completely down to me, because I'd let myself be questioned because I suddenly had money to employ some people that I really thought were experts, and that just brought a lot more complexity in. So yes, you know, you do need money to survive this, but I think that what you really need to do to do well from this is to take as much online as you possibly can, and to be super, super clear about who your business is and why you're there and why you deserve to survive. And if you know that, then getting an investor, I think, would be, it's a good thing, but make sure you're not doing it because you need to do it to survive, because you're not going to get a great investor that way. But if you have cut back and you're absolutely clear and you see a great, exciting way forward, you could find a really, really good investor at this stage, because they'll see that this is the time to support smaller niche brands, because they're going to find engagement a bit easier.
Great, thank you. Now, we may have some people listening who are maybe in a quandary about whether or not they should start a business. Maybe they've got an idea, they've found something that they think would really work at this time. What would you say to them about whether or not this is a good time to start?
In many ways, and for many, many people, this is a great time to start, because especially, you know, if you're at home and you've got more time, you know, at home, because either you're still working, but you're working from home, so you have that time that you used to spend in a commute, maybe. Businesses it's mainly online businesses or local, serving the local community, those kinds of businesses that are doing very well at the moment. And so if your idea is around something like that, then this is a great time to dip your toe in the water and start, because there are always so many reasons that you can find not to do something, you know, and I'm not starting now because it's a recession. I'm not starting now because people are anxious and they're not going to be open to new ideas, or I'm not starting now because there are always reasons not to do it. But starting an online business, you know, for less than £20 a month, you can get one of these sort of plug and play websites and get started on e-com, and then take your own photos. You know, why would you not? Because in many ways, you know, people are going to cut you a lot more slack. It's probably, if it wasn't the conditions that we find ourselves in now, I wouldn't be able to ask people's understanding for choosing to do something from my kitchen. You know, I wouldn't be able to have the level of understanding if the dogs start barking. You know, people are cutting a lot of slack because we're all in this kind of strange boat together.
Yes.
And I think that having something that's always been your dream might be that bit of positivity and excitement that gets you through this challenging time. You know, there's nothing more exciting than seeing, you know, your first customer or your business grow, or starting that interaction on social about your brand. And there go my dogs, you know, like
dogs and babies, I think it's been during this time.
But I think you need to be doing something positive and exciting. And if you've had this dream, then why not is the question that I'd ask.
Thank you. Now, crises like the ones that we've been going through, there's been all sorts of things happening in lots of different ways, not just a pandemic.
I love that, not just a pandemic. Yeah.
So the thing that I'm really interested in, I'm pretty much a glass half full person, and for me through this time, I've focused, you know, like you, my children are, you know, one's just gone to university, the other one's in film on the Isle of Wight. So I have a level of freedom that I didn't ever have before, which is wonderful. And I think it's very easy to look at the things that are happening around us and go, woe is me, doom, life has, you know, ended as we know it. And it has to some extent. But I also believe that with every crisis, whilst there are always challenges, there are also always opportunities. So my question to you is, what are the opportunities that you've seen, that you've either taken advantage of or are seeking to take advantage of? And when I talk about advantage, I'm, you know, not to somebody else's detriment, but just where you've seen, yes, this is something we can do.
Yeah. And so there's one that springs to mind, and this is a non-work one, but the absolute biggest opportunity. One of my dogs is not particularly well socialized. He gets very freaked out by strangers, and that makes walking him really difficult. And he's a big dog. And social distancing has been such a godsend to getting Barnaby out on walks and making sure that he's got the space to get comfortable. And he's improved so much so that when everything improves, then he will be a dog fit for humanity again. So that's been a real win for me and for Barnaby. On the Cambridge Satchel front, we would never have gone through the level of consideration of, as a brand, who we are. We would never have gone back and thought, we need to look at ourselves and be brave enough to say, we're open to changing, to reflect how we've changed, to reflect how we've grown up through this. And so we're going to take a look and we're going to think, well, maybe these things aren't exactly at our core. We're going to get rid of them. That's what we're going to do. And maybe we need to revisit something as fundamental as the logo, to reflect that we're moving forward. We've grown up. We know now what our strengths are. We know that craftsmanship is our strength. We know that we make things that are going to last. And we know that people are more interested in buying something that's going to last them for 20 years, not something that's going to last them for 6 months. And there are those sorts of, this is an opportunity to think, let's question everything. Were we too reliant on foreign tourists in our bricks and mortar shops? Yes, probably we were, because that worked for us and it worked really, really well for us. And now we're thinking, okay, well, we need to serve our home market the way we did in those early years. We need to be thinking of, it started out, I thought Cambridge Satchel would be for children. It wasn't. It was, this school bag was embraced by people as the ultimate work bag. So we need to be thinking, what do people need? They need work bags, but they also now are maybe going and walking about a bit more in nature, walking out and about in the British countryside because, traveling's a little bit more stressful. So let's make sure that we've got backpacks. Let's make sure that we're making things that people need in the lives we're living right now. And that's the thing. It's to be, some of the biggest mistakes that I have made have been trying to get the business ready for a size that wasn't us at that particular time. And all that did was really loaded us down with overhead that made life difficult. So it is doing things that are right for your business, the size it is right now, obviously having a view to where you want to be and a path to get there, but making sure, this is quite poetic, making sure there are stepping stones along the way to get to that target, rather than just building a structure for that target and praying it comes along and living with the overhead to get there. I think that would be my biggest piece of advice.
That's wonderful. I have a little phrase that says, small steps make quantum leaps. And I think that sometimes we are very much told to make these massive quantum leaps. And actually we seem to leap into a massive hole. And actually it's those little steps that we make along the way that make change. And we look back, we realize just how far we've come. You said something earlier, which is about being authentically you as a business. And I think there's a massive push, isn't there, to be this big business. But actually, does that really work for you at the end of the day? So you've got to be authentically you.
Yeah. We got to this stage where when I looked at the website, it felt like we were suggesting that we were making bags for young girls, because that's all I saw in the photographs. And that was never the case. Our people are stylish people, and stylish people come in all ages and all shapes and sizes. And yet, as you grow, certainly for us, there was this pressure that I felt of define your customer, and that definition seemed to just expect an age definition. It's not an age definition, it's a mindset definition. You know, the people that really love what we do are of a particular mindset, and age has nothing to do with that mindset. But the industry-wide big corporate way of doing this marketing activity really seemed to be so focused on customer profiling from the point of view of who is your customer, what is the age of your customer. And that caused us all kinds of problems, because, you know, that might work if you're making toys for toddlers. You know, if you're making baby accessories, then yes, it's the, you know, that's the age that your product needs to target. But for us, it's a mindset. It's those people who want to do really adventurous things. It's the people who want to grow their life experiences and have a bag that's going to be robust enough, durable enough, and manufactured in a way that makes them feel good about it. You know, that's the mindset, and that's who our customer is. And so I think that you have to be strong enough to question, yes, read the books, but question as well, does this actually sort of now put that common sense filter on and just think, does that actually make sense? Because it might make sense for some businesses, or for the business that's written by the author of that book, but not for yours. You know your business best, and you really need to focus on that.
It's definitely not a one size fits all. I don't think there is for anything. We are complex beings, and in doing so, that means our businesses need to be right for us and for our market, our tribe. I love to, you know, we have a tribe that's right for us, that no matter what we do, they will love it almost.
But you can't be something for everyone, you know, and that's fine. You don't need everyone. Oh, here are the dogs again.
Here they come.
Here they come. Here they come. You can see the tails, and you might see a head because he's a big, tall boy. You can't be, you know, something for everyone, because you just become a bit bland, you know, and
you're nothing for no one. Really, at the end, you cannot be all things to all people.
The definition of beige, you know, you are that person that is in the middle of that bell curve.
Yes.
And that might be fine for a short period of time whilst the tide is with you, but those people aren't loyal people. You know, they're not as loyal as the person you can see there standing in front of the door. And you want the tribe, you want the people who are passionate advocates for what you do. And that means you're going to have to be brave enough to be different.
Yeah. So we are coming to the end, and it has been wonderful talking to you. I'm just going to ask you one thing that you would like to share. If there was one thing that you thought, everybody, these guys have got to know this. I know I've put you a little bit on the spot. Well, what would that one thing be when it comes to business? The one thing that you'd like, remember this little nugget.
I think the important thing is just try to enjoy where you are right now. And that's not always easy, but you really need to focus on where your business is right now. And when something goes right, then really, really celebrate it and learn from it if it doesn't exactly go right. Because it's very, very easy to spiral into a little bit of gloom. And so, you know, on things like the news, I've had to think, I'll listen to the news headlines, but I'm not going to sit and watch the full news, because sometimes it just makes me feel miserable. And if I'm feeling miserable, that's going to come across in what I do, because if you're the founder of a business, it comes through whether you intend it to or not. You know, I look back at some of the years when I was feeling really, really challenged and not at my best. And I look at the colors of the bags we came out with in those years. Oh, they were really, really gloomy. And there is a book that Ingrid Fettel Lee has written, this book on joy, that again is one, or just her TED talk, I think is fantastic, because
Yeah.
it's these things that nobody wants to be with the miserable person in the room, you know, and if you make your business that miserable person in the room, then however worthy you are, you're not going to be fun to be with. And if you're not going to be fun to be with, then people aren't going to seek you out online. So
Yes.
just try to figure out what it is that makes you feel happy, because if you're feeling happy, it will come through, and
Yes.
business will do better because of it.
Yeah, I'm going to have to stop you there, Julie. Thank you. Just such great nuggets. And we are virtually, there goes my light, out of time. But one thing I will say is it has been an absolute pleasure having this conversation, this kitchen table talk with you this morning. There are some great things that have come out, you know, being pragmatic and looking at the long term. Also getting stuck in your business and not kind of just leaving it to everyone else, and being very, very brave, I think. And there are opportunities. So, you know, if you need to cut back. And remember that it is about connection. So if you want to market, if you want to build your business, make sure that you are connecting with your community and considering the wider world that you are also in. So find your tribe, and they will be loyal. They will look after them, and they will look after you. So it has been a wonderful morning, certainly for me. Julie, it's been great having the conversation and hearing your nuggets as well. I would just encourage you all to seek out your libraries. There is a plethora of information there that can really support you, and it's free in general. And if it's not free, then it's very low cost. So definitely do seek out your library, seek out the business and IP centres that are around, certainly the one that we have here in London, and definitely ensure that you are getting online and getting your information. We'd like to thank the British Library Business and IP Centre for this morning, also the support from our partner Santander, and most of all, we'd definitely like to thank Julie Deane OBE and the Cambridge Satchel Company for sharing such wonderful, wonderful information. There will be some electronic forms coming to you asking you for some feedback. Please do fill them in, because we cannot make it better for you if we don't know what's working or what's not working. But thank you all, lastly, to our audience for actually coming and listening. These events are here for you. Thank you for sharing your questions, and thank you for being here. Have an amazing day, and here ends our kitchen table talk. Thank you.
Thank you.